Hi guys, welcome back. So one of the latest updates on the Tiffany Henyard Mayor of Dolton hot messness is that the FBI is actively investigating in Dolton, and there were some federal subpoenas served Monday at Dolton's Village Hall. So in case you don't know, being subpoenaed by the FBI means that the FBI has issued a legal document called a subpoena, ordering an individual to testify or provide certain documents or evidence relevant to an investigation. So they're asking for credit card expenditures, expense reimbursements, per diems, which is a daily allowance given to employees by a company to pay for certain expenses while traveling for business. And they're also just basically asking for all the spending done by Tiffany Henyard. And they're going back all the way to before she got elected in 2021. The FBI is also requesting the same information from Henyard's top dog and right-hand man, Keith Freeman. And I did make a video on Keith Freeman not too long ago talking about his latest indictment for bankruptcy fraud. Yes, bankruptcy fraud, okay? So the FBI is not stopping with Henyard and Freeman. They are also asking for financial information from a couple of trustees and some village employees who often travel with Henyard. And these all-expense taxpayer-funded trips are now coming into question because upon Henyard's return to Dolton, she would never show proof as to how those trips benefited the village of Dolton. And she would basically have an attitude with anyone who questioned her about all the outrageous, unnecessary spending. Just to give a little bit of more information to some of you who are not too familiar with why her spending has come to the point where it's under the FBI's radar, there have been multiple news outlets reporting on her reckless and lavish spending of the taxpayer dollars, with one of the latest updates addressing the fact that Henyard's travel costs reached over $100,000 due to flying first class, staying in 5-star hotels, and fine dining. So due to all this reckless spending, the FBI has now gotten involved, and not only are they in Dolton, where Henyard serves as mayor, but they have made their way over to Thornton Township, where Henyard serves as supervisor. Now, I don't have to tell you guys how bad this looks, but just in case I do, this is bad. Okay. And there were also 2 federal subpoenas served this last Friday, and Tiffany Henyard is definitely the target of the investigation. And the investigation appears to just be growing, with a couple of the subpoenas being served inquiring about some of Henyard's businesses, such as her Good Burger business she had with South Suburban College, where she failed to pay rent for 2 whole years, okay? Not only that, she failed to follow through with a lot of contractual agreements she had with the college. Her other business they're inquiring about is her property management business, where she serves as the chief executive officer, and it's called Aisha's Properties, Inc., and the business is located in Dolton. And so I Googled it, and it says the business has been operating for approximately 17 years, and it's estimated to generate $239,184 in annual revenues. And they employ approximately 4 people at that single location. The information also says it's a real estate agent business dealing in residential business within the real estate sector. But apparently the FBI has some questions about this business as well. And also, not only is the FBI investigating her businesses, they're asking for licensing information from 10 bars and restaurants whose owners feel their licensing has been held up by the village on purpose. Not the village, I'm going to say Tiffany Henyard on purpose, because they believe she wants the businesses to do with as she pleases. Not only that, when the news interviewed those business owners about their concerns, 2 of those businesses were raided by Dolton police, who, according to some people, they have absolutely no problem enforcing the will of Tiffany Henyard. Not enforcing the will of the town, of the people, and what's in the best interest for those that live there, but they're on her payroll and they're under her iron fist. And so they're there to do just her bidding at this point. And to add to everything else going on, the residents over there in Thornton Township recently held a rally asking for more transparency as to how their taxpayer dollars are being spent. So that seems to be the common theme, right? She's spending up taxpayer dollars and then not being transparent on what it's being spent on. And she's basically brushing it off like, hey, I'm the mayor, I'm the supervisor. And Tiffany Henyard, like so many other people that don't want to be held accountable for their actions, use what's called a straw man argument. Now, a straw man fallacy, sometimes written as straw man, is the informal fallacy of refuting an argument different from the one actually under discussion. And it's also commonly used in political debates and in discussions over controversial topics. An example of her using this is when she's questioned about her actions and her non-transparency. She brings up the former administration and Frank Zuccarelli, who was supervisor previously. And she talks about how Thornton Township never used to question them and how the previous administration was stealing and all sorts of things, rather than focus on what's being presented to her and the questions that are being thrown at her. So how Tiffany Henyard used the straw man argument in that case is she's presenting a whole new imaginary argument instead of addressing the original issue at hand, which is about her and the way she's behaving as the current supervisor. And I'm sure you guys have come across people in your life who use this tactic often to deflect from being held accountable or continuing on with a conversation that will put them in a bad light. So I don't know what went on with their previous administration and Frank Zuccarelli, but he is not here to defend himself, so we're just going to leave that alone. But the fact is, the spotlight is on Tiffany Henyard. Why? Because she put it on herself. She put it on herself by spending taxpayer dollars and not being transparent. And how do we know this? Because there are previous board meetings, several of them, where the Dolton trustees are questioning Tiffany. They are asking her for information to be given to them ahead of time before the meetings so that they're able to make informed decisions on the bills being presented to them. It's just so much over and over back and forth that you can go back at those meetings and look at and see that what she used to try to hold the previous mayor accountable for, that they're now trying to hold her accountable for, because she's in the seat now and she's abusing her power and not being transparent. And I know there's a lot of people blaming the trustees. They're blaming the village of Dolton for putting her into this position of power. And to those people, I'll say, hindsight is 20/20. And what that means is that when we look back on situations in the past, we tend to see things more clearly now than we saw them at that time. And this brings me back to one of my videos I recently did on the many red flags of Tiffany Henyard before she became mayor. So going back to some of the old Dolton Village trustee meetings, you can definitely see many red flags in her personality and her moral compass. And if you were paying close attention, you would realize this is not the type of person you want to give power to. Okay? But that's the thing about red flags, okay? We're human beings. And when it comes to red flags, a lot of times we only see what is convenient for us to see at that moment. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say someone is giving an interview and they ask the interviewee, how would you handle a difficult customer? And the person says, oh, I wouldn't. I would just ignore them and keep working. Now, this is a red flag, but under what circumstances could this person still end up being hired? Under certain circumstances where the employer is desperate to fill that position. And the employer could also be thinking like, hey, that wasn't the best answer, but maybe we can work with this person. Maybe once I talk to this person and get them to understand that this is not how we treat customers, maybe they'll come around. Maybe I can turn this person around. Okay? And that is exactly how we handle red flags mentally. We try to justify them. We try to give the person the benefit of the doubt, right? You guys, let me know if you guys encounter red flags in your life that you've ignored. And then you look back and you're like, okay, why didn't I see this? Or why didn't I act then? So that being said, I'm going to leave you guys with a quote by Maya Angelou, who was a famous American poet, civil rights activist, and author. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know how you feel about these recent developments in Dolton and in Thornton Township. I'll see you guys next time.